In a world of Johnnies, Timmies, and Spikes, we must all arrive at the win condition.
Telepath, illusionist, maze guy.
So we got to cast Living Death, and we've now won the game. We will move on.
You open a random pack of cards expecting to get what you want. And if you do, you're on cloud 9. If not, you want to buy more.
Oh my god, did I play Magic this weekend.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Win Condition Podcast, your source for lore, news, and brews in the Magic the Gathering community. My name is Sean. I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Doing okay today.
Oh, that's just swell. That's fantastic. That's boss.
It is. I mean, I've been up since 5 a.m., but hey, whatever.
Dude, that's awesome. I think I only woke up twice last night with my babies crying and screaming. So, not too bad. Not too bad.
That's pretty good for once.
Yeah. Before we really kick things off, just want to remind everybody this show is brought to you by Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com, where you can head over there, make an order, any order of $10 or more, whether it's singles or sealed product or deck sleeves or deck boxes. If you use that promo code WINCONDITION in all caps, it'll save you 10% off your purchase, which will help contribute to future show giveaways. And Greg, we are going to be doing another giveaway coming up here in episode 50.
I know, right? Isn't that weird? I mean, what is that? That's 9 episodes away?
It is. I mean, this is episode 41. I mean, we're coming up on this pretty quickly. So, be ready. Be ready for a sweet, sweet giveaway coming up here. And then also, before we really dive into it, Greg, did you play any Magic this last week?
Oh my god, did I play Magic this weekend.
Why don't you tell us about your Magic you played this last week? I think it was something happened on the weekend.
Yeah, this past weekend was the pre-release for Rise of Ixalan.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's pretty good. Well, so I played in 2 events. I did the midnight release at my local store, pre-release, and I can't remember that deck too well. It was okay. It was dinosaurs. I got a Zatalpa in it. That card is busted, by the way.
Yeah. Windmill slam as soon as you get the mana to play that thing.
Yeah. I had a Registrar Alpha. There's a couple cool cards.
Wow.
But the 2-headed giant is where everything was.
Okay, here we go.
So we went 3-1, and the only reason why we lost one game was because the lightning rig pirate that untaps whenever you put a pirate into play.
Sure. If
we had a blue mana, like a turn earlier, we would have been able to take control of that, and Andrew would have swung in with like 7/3/3 Merfolk because of Kumena.
Ooh, I hear Kumena's a good card.
He's kind of good. He's kind of good. So the things that we opened, we had a Kumena, a Tashana, the Whirlpool Raider Oracle.
Wow.
Seafloor Oracle, sorry. That's the one where every time a Merfolk deals damage to a player, draw a card.
Yep.
So that was all in Andrew's deck. Then in my deck, I had Wayward Swordtooth, which is the 5/5 for 3 that allows you to play an extra land, and when you hit the Ascend, he can attack and block.
Yep.
Then we had a pair of Golden Guardians, which are the 4/4s that fight a creature you control, and when it dies, transform it and turns into the Golem Foundry.
Oh my
and it
gosh.
taps for 2 mana of any one color, and you can pay 4 and put out golems, 4/4 golems.
Yeah.
So there was 2 of those. Then there was a Verdant Sun's Avatar, the 5/5 for 7 that gains you life.
Oh, gain all that life.
Then there were 2, yes, that is correct, 2 Zatalpas, a Registrar Alpha, and a Zakama Primal Calamity.
So wait, you got a Zatalpa in your single event as well as in this 2-headed giant? What?
Yeah, I did. And I think
the word for that is stupid.
The play of the day was the Cherished Hatchling, which is like that 2-drop 2/1 that when it dies, it gives dinosaurs you control flash, and
Yeah.
whenever a dinosaur enters the battlefield, they fight another creature. So I swung into with the cherished hatchling because like I want this guy to die. It
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like fun. So they blocked instead of taking the 2. I mean, they were in a low health, so they didn't have to block.
Right.
They were thinking, oh, I'll kill a dude. Sure, sounds good. And I go Zakama. Eat up their dude. Oh, there was one other card I forgot to mention. I had a Silverclad Frostodons.
Okay.
The 7-drop Enrage, when it gets dealt damage, it makes each opponent sacrifice a permanent.
Oh, that's just wonderful.
So not only did I get to eat something of theirs with Zakama, and then on top, I played that right after it, need another thing, and then make them sacrifice permanent. It was busted.
So how'd you guys end up doing?
3-1.
Okay.
Because we lost one round by literally a round because we didn't get a blue source. So going into the final round, we were 2-1.
Uh-huh.
And the only person that we could play, because it was a small turnout, were the 3-0s. So we had to play the undefeated team, and we crushed them.
Jeez.
So obviously I felt like our decks were more busted than we gave them credit. We just didn't get to play them as much.
Sometimes if you just don't draw the right mana, you can't cast the right spells, and things just don't end up working. So wow. That sounds like a ton of fun, man. I wish I could have gotten out there for a pre-release event. Unfortunately, this time I couldn't, but maybe next time.
You have to make Dominaria.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be like a priority for me. Yeah, once we hit Dominaria, I'll definitely have to get out there because I love pre-releases. They're so much fun.
And maybe, just maybe, I took that week off. And just maybe it's my birthday week, and we might be able to meet up.
Oh my gosh, if there's a 2-headed giant pre-release event for Dominaria, Greg.
I don't know. What does Crazy Squirrel do?
If we don't go undefeated in that, then I think we don't deserve to play Magic anymore. But no.
Oh man, it depends on what you open.
That is true. I hear to be good at sealed, you got to open good cards.
Yeah,
I just heard it. That's all I heard.
Do.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you had a very fun, pre-release experience.
Yeah.
And
good.
Yeah, of course it releases this weekend, so everybody.
What do you mean? It's today.
It is today. We're recording on a Friday, and it is the release day for Rivals of Ixalan. So
I went out and bought stuff today.
Oh, you did? What'd you buy? Make me jealous.
I got some Brass's Bounties.
Ooh.
Because I like that card. I'm on it. Etali, the Primal Storm.
Were any of those Brass's Bounties buy-a-box promos?
No, those are Draft Weekend promos.
Oh, they're Draft Weekend promos. Oh, okay. All right.
Go out and draft this weekend. Get your Brass's Bounty.
Get your Brass's Bounty right here. All right, continue. What else did you get?
So Etali, the Primal Storm.
Okay.
Because red dinosaurs are good. The card is actually really busted.
Sounds like a good EDH commander.
Tianali Skirmisher.
Okay.
That's the Ascend that you pay X, you get X1/1s. But if you have the City's Blessing, you get to keep all
Isn't
your
that Tianali Summoner?
What did I say?
Skirmisher?
Yeah, it's Summoner. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that Ascend hyperdrive mode. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels real good. I figured that would look really strong in my Elemental deck.
Yeah, I really like that card.
And then an Azor's Gateway.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm kind of hyped by this card. I cannot wait to play it in my Selvala deck.
It's the new Jace's Vryn's Prodigy, right?
I mean,
right?
Kinda.
I think it's really cool. I think that it actually, I don't know. Someone's going to try to use it, and once they flip it, everyone's going to want to do it. So I think it's going to be a really popular card.
Yep, I agree. All right.
Yep.
So, anyhow.
Yep.
Those are pretty much the cards I got. A couple other neat things. I opened some packs. I got an Azor. But otherwise, that's about it.
You know what? Speaking of cards, real quick, before we dive into this sounds like a pretty good segue for me. You know how a lot of people are talking about they want to build vampires or they want to build merfolk, that it's going to be a pretty strong tribe moving forward. I would harken back to something I might have said earlier. I think that this is a great opportunity to invest in your playset of either Sweltering Suns or even Hour of Devastations, because I think that a lot of people are going to be trying a new go wide strategy, either with what's left of Ramen Up Red or vampires or merfolk, and I think even main decking some of these damaging board sweepers in red might be a pretty good idea, and they're really cheap right now, both Hour of Devastation and Sweltering Suns. So if you don't have them, go out and get them, because Hazoret dies to Hour of Devastation. If you didn't
it
know.
sure does. Sure does.
So,
That's true.
and you might even be able to take down a Zatalpa if you damage it first and then cast Hour of Devastation.
Yeah,
So,
but I don't think Zatalpa is going to get played. Atali is just so much better.
I think you are correct, sir. I think you're very correct in that
I
statement.
actually got to cast and swing with an Atali, and I got a Solemn, a Swords, and something else. It was good.
Oh, wow. Oh, Commander, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
boy, oh boy. All right, well, let's move on then to more of the meat and potatoes of this episode. Let's take a turn and head over to Lore Corner.
Everything about the story?
Everything about the
Okay,
story,
good.
because it's so good.
Where did we leave off?
Well,
Jason Vraska, right?
yeah, we left off with Jason Vraska, and they were ascending the staircase to this golden temple that they saw. And Jace was very, kind of weary. He was kind of weak, and so he was kind of forced. It's a forced march up the stairs. But in this story, entitled "Glimpse the Far Side of the Sun," we actually start with Huatli, and not a current Huatli, a Huatli who is only 8 years old.
Aw, just a little kid.
Just a little kid. So we join Huatli with some of her compatriots being taught by a priest, and Huatli asks the question as they're training, because it's a lot of physical fighting, a lot of training. She asks the priest the question, "What's on the far side of the sun?" And the priest is like,
"No, no, that's
yeah.
not something you should be asking."
Yeah, that's irrelevant. Like, asking questions that we really don't know or have an answer to is completely irrelevant. Don't worry about that. Just worry about fighting and, talking about us and our story and our victories. So she's a little taken aback by this. She's like, I kind of want to know. Like, this is, and she kind of presses, a little bit more. And the priest is kind of just like, forget it. Let's go. Everybody up. Let's go fight. And so all the kids jump up and get ready to fight because, that's what they're used to. That's what they're supposed to do. And Huatli kind of sits there for a while and thinks. She's like, I wonder, about this whole other side of the sun thing. And so, yeah, she eventually, gets up and does her thing. Oh, she asks the priest says, your job is to tell the stories, tell the truths of our history, and preserve our past. And then she goes, he says, your word will be taken as truth. And Huatli goes, so I make stuff up? Yeah. And he goes, no, you just say what we tell you to say, essentially.
Yep. Yeah.
So, anyway, so Huatli gets up and, goes over and grabs her sword with everybody else. And then we flicker back over to a current day Huatli who is still running through the forest with Angrath.
And as they're running through it, they're kind of talking, and Huatli's talking about how she's there as the warrior poet, why she's going there, and about what she's doing there. And she's telling Angrath, I was told to come find this city because I am the warrior poet. I am the almighty. I am going to be the one that answers everything for my the Sun Empire. But Angrath's like, you think like an ant.
He's like, why?
She's like, do you insult me? And I was like, no, you're just an ant, and your Sun Empire is an anthill, and everybody else here is an anthill. And she takes offense to this because, calling a great empire an anthill seems rude and just wrong. And she starts talking, and Angrath kind of disregards it, honestly. And then they come across some ruins. And Huatli, of course, kind of recognizes it as the Temple of Alcazatz. And
Yes.
something about the sacred rose. And as they're going, she's like, I've got to investigate. I got to learn knowledge, because she's a very inquisitive girl. So as she's going into this temple, out comes a vampire. And she, of course, accuses this vampire of being an invader. And
Well, Angrath pipes
Well,
up and goes, "You're Elenda," and Huatley goes, "He knows more about something of legend than I do. What the heck?"
Exactly. Yes. And ultimately, Elenda goes, they're not supposed to be conquistadors. They're supposed to be humble. This is in no way what I left them to do. I must teach them a lesson. And she shadow walks away from there.
Yep.
I mean, she literally just, everything darkens, she vanishes, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, what? This is cool. And then they continue on in.
Yep.
And I think that's really about it with Angrath and Huatley.
Well,
oh, wait.
He tells her to follow him.
That's right, because she's been wasting so much of his time and just disputing the fact that she is an ant. And he's like, I have something to show you, essentially. And he opens a portal to his home plane of Kaldheim. If you don't know what that plane is, maybe if you played Duels of the Planeswalkers back in like 2014, Ramaz, a cryomancer, went there and essentially, yeah, you don't know this, do you?
I remember playing that Duels of the Planeswalkers, but this, wow, way to connect the dots.
Planeswalker. He was a teamer Planeswalker, and a lot of people are speculating right now, does Angrath know him? I'm like, nah, this has got to be a big plane. There's a hard chance that they each know each other. But maybe we're going to go to Kaldheim soon. What if Angrath lives? Anyhow, passing on, as they're moving in, one of the things that Huatley realizes is that this is not the city she saw in her vision.
No.
As they're pulled out of the portal, they both have the binding spell over their head that is now all too familiar. And of course, Huatley is caught off her guard. Angrath is not. So, after that, they continue into the city. And one of the things Huatley says to Angrath is, I wonder if the vampires are taking the immortal sun as it starts to get real dark. Mm-hmm. And I think Angrath mentions to her, you're about to find out.
Yeah.
And then we segue over to Jason Vraska.
Right. Well, one other thing I wanted to mention about their interaction was Huatley says something about, or Angrath keeps talking about freedom. You know, he goes, on my plane, you know, freedom is of the utmost importance. And Huatley actually asks him, you know, what would you do when you went back to your plane? You know, because she knows nothing of him. And he goes, I would visit my daughters. And Huatley's like kind of taken aback by his, you know, vulnerability there. But when he says that, because he actually has a heart, like what the heck?
Yeah.
But he also says to her, yeah, when he says his home plane is Kaldheim, he says, do you understand what I mean now? And Huatley shook her head, and Angrath says, freedom starts with knowing when you're trapped.
Yeah.
So he has been trapped, I think he said, for 14 years on the plane of Ixalan.
14 years, yeah.
Yeah, and so Huatley is kind of, she's offended, but at the same time, she feels like she's more insignificant than she's ever kind of felt before, kind of starting to grasp and comprehend the fact that Ixalan is not the only, you know, plane of existence out there.
Whoa. Ixalan is not a plane. There's only an island.
Yeah, it's the continent, sure. Okay, all right. So you're right. They interact with Elenda, and Angrath actually gets a little perturbed with Huatley, and so he kind of chains her, or swipes at her with his chain. She kind of dodges a little bit, kind of sears her cheek, and then he dashes off. So they are now separated. And now we bounce back to Jace, and so Jace is still ascending the staircase with Vraska, And as they're climbing up the steps,
He's cataloging his thoughts.
he is. He's coming to terms with the fact that he can remember more now than ever before. And while he used to be this, Jace that we knew of before Ixalan, kind of this moody, kind of, emo, kind of, nobody was really like hot on him, to the Jace on Ixalan, where everyone's like, "Oh snap, he's a pirate!" He gets after it. He gets involved physically in battle. Like he's cool now, and so the fact that he sees all of this kind of coalescing together, and he's able to reach back into his past and see these visions of his mother. And what a warm, comforting figure she was. And he remembers, his adolescence, on Vryn, before he planeswalked away with his dueling with Alhammarret.
Yeah.
And so he's just kind of still, realizing all this stuff that's going on with him. And so he and Vraska, they hear something big coming, and so Jace quickly throws an illusion up to mask himself and Vraska, and a gigantic dinosaur represented by this picture of Zatalpa flies overhead, and Vraska.
Wow.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you missed something here, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember? He was trying to remember his memories. He was scoping around in there, and he remembers this golden dragon.
Oh my gosh, you're correct. Yeah, go.
But he couldn't name who it was. All he remembers is that it was a searing hot in his brain, and then he left. And he tries searching around in his memories, and he comes across another one, a white dragon.
But he remembers the name of that one.
Ugin.
Yes.
And there's something on this memory. Something he saw before. Kind of fraying on the edges of the memory.
Yep.
And he kind of picks at it, and it shows that if anybody were to find this memory, it would protect itself, and he would instantly walk away.
Yes.
Which explains why outside knowledge Jace doesn't know about. Nicol Bolas, of course.
Right.
Why he walked away instantly, and it said he would go to Ixalan.
Yep.
Which means Ixalan has some bearing with Ugin.
Yes, Ugin knows about Ixalan. Yep.
So...
Oh, that's so cool.
The plot thickens.
The plot definitely thickens. Okay, so...
All right, go ahead, back to Zatalpa.
Okay, so he, he remembers this, and he kind of catalogs it as he keeps going. And so, so this dinosaur flies overhead, and... then the illusion can kind of go, but Vraska looks at Jason and goes, "Dude, that was done. You did that way faster than I've ever seen you cast an illusion before."
Yeah.
And Jace is like, "Well, yeah, I know now that I was more powerful back before I planeswalked away from Vryn." And Vraska's like, "You mean to tell me that you were more powerful when you were 13 than now?" And he goes, "Yeah. And now that I know that, like, I'm just ridiculous." And Vraska looks at him and goes, "Jace, you are incredible." And Jace is like, "What?" He wanted to hug her, but, he knew that she didn't like to be hugged. So he kind of smiled, and he's like, "Oh, you're awesome. Thank you." So anyway, they have a moment there, and then they press on. And then they come to... the top of the staircase, and they see Azor's gateway, or more this maze, this kind of cryptic puzzle here. And Vraska looks at Jason and goes, "All right, you're the mine dude, you're the maze dude, go." And Jace even goes, "That's me," he said with amusement. "Jace Bellerin, living guild pact, telepath, illusionist, maze guy." Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So he opens up the maze using his finger, and as soon as he finishes it, he notices something. These are the same type of runes that the Azorius use.
Yep, he sees himself in it, too, the living guild pact.
And Vraska's like, the Azorius aren't here. That's Ravnica. And he's like, do we know of any famous planeswalkers that are Azorius? Well, there's Azor. He might have been a planeswalker. was he a sphinx? Because he's feeling the mind on the other side of the store as a labyrinth. Felt very familiar. And at that moment, yeah, he realized it's definitely a sphinx on the other side. And
yeah, and Vraska's
the door
worried.
opens.
Yeah, well, she's worried that the fact that it's a Sphinx and Jace's previous interaction with a Sphinx, I'll hammer it, this might have a little bit of bearing on how he can handle the situation. But she tells him, she's like, you will never be defeated by another Sphinx again. And Jace kind of gets this confidence as they walk into the room. But yeah,
Right.
Go ahead.
All right, so she prepares her petrifying glaze and tells him, just give me the word and I'll do it. So they walk in. He asks their name, and he doesn't say anything. They just say that they're strangers to the world and that they want the immortal sun if you don't want to die. Of course, the Sphinx kind of laughs and tells them that he is Azor. And guess what, Gorgon? You're going to be a prisoner for the third time in your life. So Jace puts a psychic ward above both of them to protect themselves and thinks about how he's a Hammerette and tells Azor, you're going to refer to her as Captain. And then he says, what does that make you? And Jace responds with, I'm Jace Bellerin, the living guild pact. As Azor flinches and says, the failsafe? No, the pirate.
So we see a Jace that is kind of starting to become a badass. I mean, he's confronting these situations, these problems, these characters, these sphinxes that he's already lost a lot to, and with confidence.
Yeah.
He is a new Jace, and he's ready to battle and do what it takes to save his friend Vraska and continue with whatever his mission is. So that's the end of the story for this week. It's very exciting, and cannot wait to see what happens next week. You, Greg.
Interesting thing for you.
Yes.
The Talarian Community College has started doing an evaluation on the story. And they evaluate it by the colors of magic. So if it's bad, it'll be one color like white. If it's really good, it'll be Wooburn.
Okay.
And what they've pretty much surmised is that Ixalan as a whole has been exceedingly good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It has
So
been...
the story team is doing a great job.
Oh, definitely. And I think that especially if you have played Magic previously, to this set, and you're not brand new, and you know these characters as they develop through this particular block, it really kind of cuts a chord with you that, wow, these people, like, what you know of them can change.
Oh, yeah.
And they can evolve and become cooler people. And, just because you think you know Jace, you might not know Jace, a set or two later. So that's awesome. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Professor, you are 100% correct. And this story is outstanding. So awesome job for the R&D narrative team and the authors of the story. Greg, you had a little bit of speculation in terms of what is to come with the story. What do you think is going to happen?
We have all of our story cards, so we know the next two are Induced Amnesia, which our art is Jace using what looks like an amnesia spell on Vraska, and then Mastermind Acquisition. So my speculation, of course, is we're all wondering, why will they use Amnesia? Why would Jace make Vraska forget anything?
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'm coming to now, we've speculated a lot on this because... why not?
Yeah, right. That's what we do.
What if Jace is unable to protect her from Azor, and he uses this ability to make her forget about this fight?
Uh-huh.
And it's just as simple as that. I mean, maybe her mind gets fractured, and it really messes her up.
Yeah. Or
So...
what if, and this is just me kind of spitballing here, what if he does this in response to to Azor trying to dive into her brain to access information about something else, and Jace realizes what's going on and goes, almost like, oh my gosh, what's that Phyrexian card, surgical extraction, like
Yes.
in response to something being like, nope, yoink, and just taking it out. And now Vraska's just like, getting her brain just fried. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It could be anything. We can't wait to see what happens in the next week's story. So
I know.
let's press on, Greg, to our next segment. We've got a lot of news and announcements to cover. So
We
why don't
really
we
do.
head on into As Foretold?
It's definitely an interesting week. We, of course, got our banned and restricted listings for Magic this Monday. And everybody was expecting nothing to really happen in Standard, some unbannings in Modern, and EDH. I was expecting Primetime to get unbanned.
Well, I think a lot of people were looking at Attune kind of in the crosshairs, thinking if there was a card that was going to get banned, one card that Attune with Ether was probably the target. But they just
No,
kind of went.
They banned 4 cards.
Yep.
What were those
Yep.
4 cards?
Those 4 cards were Attune with Ether, Rogue Refiner, which essentially is nerfing, not killing, but nerfing energy decks.
Yes.
And then the second most powerful deck, Ramanop Red, had its legs pulled out from under it with the banning of Ramanop Ruins and Rampaging Ferocidon.
Yeah.
What a banning this was. This is 4 more cards that are banned in Standard, totaling, I want to say, 9 banned cards in the last 12-ish month period, which is absolutely nuts. So,
yeah.
I mean,
no, it's pretty insane. I mean, you've got these 4, then you got Feldar Sovereign,
Feldar
Guardian.
Yep.
You've got Smuggler's Copter, Aetherworks Marvel. I think
Yep.
that's it.
I think you're right. Yeah. So that
But
is
still, that's 7 cards banned in Standard in a set that it's not busted.
Right.
I think a lot of this can actually be to blame on the players.
sure.
Because,
They're the ones doing
in all honesty, the answers to these cards and decks are in Standard. They're there.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
nobody's playing with them because they're not strong enough for them, or they just don't do it effectively. Does it have to be a 1-drop?
Yeah, in the article that Ian Duke wrote about for these bannings, he mentioned that Rampaging Ferocidon was expected to be an answer to the Saheeli Rai Felidar Guardian combo. Now, unfortunately, it was two sets or 2 blocks too late. And, I mean, do you think that if in Amonkhet they printed something that Rampaging Ferocidon, like obviously not a dinosaur, but something else, like, would that have saved the Saheeli Cat combo? I mean, I don't know, because when you get decks like Energy, when you get decks like 4-color Saheeli taking up 40+% of the metagame, I mean, you were at GP Santa Clara. You said all the standard decks there were Teamer Energy or 4-color Energy. It was gross. So, this not only blows the lid off of the most dominant deck in Standard, but it cripples the second most dominant deck in Standard in Ramanop Red. I mean, you lose the Ramanop Ruins, the namesake of the deck. So I definitely see there still being a red deck in Standard that is very effective, but not hopefully to the level that Ramanop Red was dominant for so long before we actually saw the rise of Teamer Energy.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's still potential for decks like, a Grixis Energy is still a possibility. I mean, you could run your Scarab God, you could run your Whirler Virtuoso, you could run your Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and you could run your Harness Lightning.
The problem is that all those decks kind of needed the green to make it work.
True.
For the mana fixing. So I think if we're going to see energy deck, it's going to be 2-color energy. We
2-color
won't see
energy, sure.
more than 2 unless it's a splash, but even then it will be a challenge.
Right. I mean, you do have Aether Hub and you do have Evolving Wilds. I mean, just saying. And you have all those dual lands and the fast lands. Right.
Yeah, there's it's not that there isn't a way to do it, it's just it won't be good.
It won't be, it won't be as clean or as effective or as fast, I think, as the Teamer Energy or 4-color Energy decks. I think this banning was fantastic. I think they not only looked at the immediate problem of Teamer Energy, but they went a step further and said, well, once we ban energy, what's going to happen? And they were like, oh, Ramanop Red is going to be just as dominant as it was before energy, rose to power. So let's
Correct.
nerf that. Now it is the Wild West for Standard.
Yeah, it really is. With these kind of bannings, it makes for a good, healthy environment for Standard, and a lot of people can play pretty much anything they want. The only thing is nobody wants to buy into anything because they don't know if it's going to be good. So,
Right.
like, Kometa being at this $22 price tag.
He's
I don't think it's
$22?
gonna- Yeah.
Jeez. Sell.
It's a high price, and I don't think it's going to be that great.
Yeah.
But, we'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think, I mean, maybe that Mardu deck I talked about last week has some legs now. Or
Definitely.
maybe we'll see,
Maybe a dinosaur deck.
That dinosaur deck would be awesome.
I saw a mono red deck that mid-range into Tully and Sunbird's Invocation.
Oh my gosh. What?
Could you imagine all the free spells?
Zatalpa and
No,
not Zatalpa.
Itali.
Itali. I'm sorry. Itali and Sunberg's Invocation seems dang strong. You know what? You should just shove a Swarm Intelligence in there too, because that's what you do, right, Greg?
I mean, maybe.
Oh man. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So bannings
All right.
happened. Standard is wide open, and there's a lot of people voicing their opinions now that they're upset that the new Pro Tour or the next Pro Tour is modern, because this could be one of the most diverse Pro Tours we've ever seen with Pro
Yes.
Tour Rivals of Ixalan. I mean, granted, in the next couple weeks before the tournament, if we see one deck somehow magically rise to prominence and make up 60+% of the field at the Pro Tour, then oops, that's just kind of what Magic pros do. They find the best deck, they play them, and they want to win. I mean, can you blame them?
No.
It's just kind of how it works. But anyway, so moving on from the bannings, Greg, you mentioned that there's been some changes involved in play at the competitive professional level.
Yes, so Wizards has changed how we take care of emblems and counters that are on a player. You can no longer use dice to represent these counters.
Nope.
So if you're going to have energy, if you're going to have emblems, poison counters, the city's blessing, they're not things that you have to announce. You just have to keep track of them appropriately.
Right.
So more people are going to be using more notepads to keep track of different information. Now, this information is not hidden, but it is treated like your graveyard.
Right.
Yeah. So this is an interesting change. I think one of the coolest things I saw is why the heck are we still having spin downs in our pre-releases and bundles? Give us pads, notepads.
Ooh, that's a great point. Absolutely, because
it works a lot better and longer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, if you get like a Rivals of Ixalan life pad to play with, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so if you are playing in Standard or Sealed or whatever, and you're playing with Rivals of Ixalan and you're playing with City's Blessing, you do not have to announce when you achieve the City's Blessing. Hence the notepads, you probably want to mark it down when you get it. But if you ask your opponent, do you have the City's Blessing, they have to tell you either yes or no.
Yeah, it's not hidden information. It's just something that does not have to be announced.
Right. Correct. So if you play, if you slowly but surely accumulate 10 permanents and, your opponent is sitting there with their board and then you cast Vona's Hunger and they say, oh, well, I have to sacrifice a creature. And then you say, well, no, you actually have to sacrifice half your creatures because I have the City's Blessing. And he's like, well, you didn't tell me. You can be like, well, I didn't have to tell you. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why, like you're saying, notepads are very important because you can take notes, you can keep track of game states, and nobody wants to encounter a situation where, let's say that Greg, you and I are playing, and I get the city's blessing on turn 5.
Bleh.
But you somehow kill my creatures and you whittle me down to, and I'm sorry. Turn 5, I get the city's blessing with my 10 permanents per a card. I don't know what, but I have it, right? And then we move fast forward to turn 10. My board is much less. However, I again cast Vonus Hunger. And you look and you say, oh, well, you only have 5 permanents out. I sacrifice a creature. And then I say, well, no, I have the city's blessing. Then it's, well, you never told me. And then I'm like, well, on turn 5, I had it, but I didn't say anything. And
Yes.
so it's going to be complicated. So if you want to be efficient with how you're playing, then make sure you take effective notes. So when the judge comes, you can back it up and say, well, on this turn, this turn, this turn. That way,
But
you and your
remember,
opponent.
this is only required at professional and competitive. So any place where you go that requires deck lists, you have to use this system.
Yes.
If you're going to be on camera, if you have stamped deck lists, stamped pools, those are professional level. This will have to happen. If you're playing at F&M, who the heck cares?
Right. Just, it's a game.
They're not blanketing this. You can announce it. You don't have to. It's your choice.
Right.
You can represent it with the token they give you. You cannot.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever you'd like.
Right. So just to surmise the announcement, things like energy, poison counters have to be represented. You cannot use a dice, essentially, because you can bump the table, it can be moved, whatever. You need a more solid way to track that.
Correct.
At the competitive professional level.
Right.
So.
They want to have a better system. That's what it really boiled down to.
Yeah.
So moving from that.
Yes.
What else did we get?
We got an article, a lot of us, including myself, who is a Mac user, we're very excited about the release of MTG Arena. And there's been a lot of questions revolving around the economy and the financial situation involved with MTG Arena. Well, we got a little piece.
We got a semi-answer.
Yes, we did. We got a little nugget here. So I'm going to run through some bullet points of this article, and we can talk about them as we go. So there are 2 forms of currency that you can use in the game of MTG Arena. There is gold, and there is gems. Now, gold is earned by in-game actions like winning games, completing quests, and events. Gems can only be purchased for real money in the in-game store. So things like packs can be bought with both gold and gems. So if you really want to shell out and open those packs, you can, or you can grind it out long term by playing in the events, playing in the dailies, playing in other things, and earning yourself gold to open those packs.
Yeah. They're going to have a lot of ways for you to open those packs, if I remember correctly. And then whenever you get like a 4 of a card, it allows you to sort of cash them in, right?
Exactly, which we will touch on in this next section, which is essentially the types of ways that you can get cards. And there looks like there's 5 different ways that you can get cards. There are booster packs, which you can buy, which are 8 card packs containing 5 commons, 2 uncommons, and 1 rare or mythic rare. There are draft packs, which contain 14 cards, which will be used when you participate in a draft event. And these are very similar to what you're used to if you've played MTGO or if you've played in person. Then there are individual cards, which will also be, you can earn them through play. They're testing a system right now where you can earn, I believe it is 1 card in MTG Arena up to 30 per day. So that could be exciting, however they decide to do that. Then there's some new things. There's the wild cards. And these wild cards will populate in place of a booster that you open, not the draft ones, but boosters that the 8-card ones that you buy and open. And wild cards are essentially any one of the cards in the pack. You can choose a card to take and have in your collection based on the rarity the wild card was achieved in. So if it's a wild uncommon, you can pick any uncommon that now becomes part of your collection. If it's a rare or a mythic, you can pick any one of those to get, which is kind of exciting. I mean, this is definitely brand new. And then,
What was it? I saw a picture of somebody representing this online where it just had 5 wild cards from Uno on it.
essentially,
It was
yeah.
kind of what it was. It was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. It adds a new element to opening booster packs.
Yes.
Like I know in MTGO, a lot of people would earn their booster packs and they would save them and they would use them to enter events or sell them or get whatever for them. But this definitely offers a little more incentive to actually opening these cards.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last way to get cards, again, brand new, it's called the Vault. Now, you mentioned when you get 5 cards, because a lot of people will look to models like Hearthstone where they use dust. If you want to get rid of cards, you turn them into dust and then you can craft cards with them. Well, the Vault is a way where you can, as soon as you get a card over your 5th card, because play sets 4, a 5th card in a digital environment is rendered pretty much useless. So it immediately automatically converts that towards progress towards opening the vault. So the vault, when opened, will award any number of wild cards immediately just upon opening it. So it's a great way for players to, again, through grinding, through playing a lot more, will get cards. They will get access to the vault, in which they will open and hopefully get cards that they want or are looking for. So it's very, very interesting to see how this shakes out and how this is going to affect people and their ability to collect both playable cards and decks, but also how much do they want to spend on.
Well, there's the other question of, because of how this is being set up, it feels extremely casual. So are they going to be making this a casual play? And even though they're going to make this open to people to cast, if it stays random like this, how are they truly going to have a competitive level of play if they don't have trading or the ability to buy cards?
You know what they're going to have is they're going to have opportunities for you to spend money, to gamble, and try to get those cards that you're looking for. Yes, I said gamble because let's not beat around the bush. Every time you open a booster pack, it's like opening a lottery ticket. Don't lie.
Japan actually has Magic set up as a gambling game.
Sure. I mean, why not? Loopholes, you can sidestep whatever you want to say that Magic isn't gambling, but every time you open that pack, it's the same as baseball cards have been for decades. It's you open a random pack of cards expecting to get what you want. And if you do, you're on cloud 9. If not, you want to buy more.
Yeah.
Maybe this. Go ahead.
I think there needs to be a third-party system if they're not going to allow for trading. There has to be a way to be able to allow people to get the cards they want for competitive play.
See, you say there has to be. Hasbro and Wizards will probably just say, you need to spend more money. If you want to get this, you need to spend more. They could care less about the secondary market, right? Am I right?
Technically, no.
Whether
because
it's in paper
this game
or digital.
Is purely focusing on the secondary market. And if they want it to be an entrance into an esport, not having the ability to have people get the decks without spending gross amounts of money, it's going to fail. Nobody's going to play it.
That's the thing. Without spending gross amounts of money, you have your paper system, which is the current Pro Tour format. Everything is, you stream paper with all this other stuff.
It is not the only Pro Tour
format. Wait. No, for the Pro Tour.
The Pro Tour has played online before.
Okay.
It's been on Moto.
Okay, well, Moto, then Moto's here to stay, right? Right? I don't know about that. We'll have to take a good solid look on how Wizards is streaming and portraying their digital selves as they move forward. So I don't know. I think that MTG Arena is the future. Wizards is kind of putting a lot of money into this basket, and it needs to work. So, and it's based on the players and what they'll do.
Yeah, but
So
it still comes down to the problem of if they want to make this their entrance into esports, they cannot expect every player to spend $1,000 every 4 months. Because that's just not an equitable plan. I mean, even when you look at other esports games, there is nowhere close to that amount of money spent.
hmm
So I think if they don't have a secondary way of getting cards, it's going to fail. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I'm just saying that if they're going to solely depend on that, it's going to fail.
Okay. Well, the good news is, as a digital product, it is subject to updates. So if they
Definitely.
try something and it doesn't work, they can always take a hard left and try something else. So it is exciting to see that you can grind this game without shoveling tons of money into it and get some
Yeah.
pretty good cards and build decks.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not or however long it takes them to expand beyond just standard, that's to be seen. And for that length of time, MTGO will still be strong because people will want to play everything from vintage to legacy to modern to commander, to Momir Vig or Momir Basic, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's Momer Basic, because you
Momir
play with
Basic.
Basic lands.
There you go. Yeah. So they will still have that outlet, as long
Or
as
Joyra.
MTGO is relevant. Right. Right.
Yeah, but
So-
I don't know. If Arena literally does take over, Moto's going to go.
It is. It is. It really is. And I think it's great that if you do invest, and they're offering, you can pay money in this MTG Arena beta to get gems. But they said that they will not refund, but they will credit you an equal amount of what you've spent after they wipe your account once the official release of MTG Arena happens. So you
Right.
can then throw all that money into whatever you want. Probably, I mean, obviously it's going to be gems, but how you spend those gems will be on you. And maybe you learn something in the beta on how you spend the gems and how it's effective.
Sure.
One other thing that I forgot to mention about the wild cards. You can save wild cards from set to set to set. So if you want to, save up 10, 20, 30, however many wild cards you want, and you're waiting for Dominaria, you can cash those wild cards in when Dominaria comes out and expect to get, wild cards from that set. You don't have to spend them immediately when you get them, and I think that's kind of cool. Like I think that'll offer players much more incentive to want to search for these wild cards because, yeah, they seem pretty cool. They seem really, really awesome. So, all right, well, let's close the book on MTG Arena for this week. I think that's very exciting news. I can't wait to see what happens with this.
So we got to cast Living Death, and we have now won the game. We will move on.
Sure, and you cast it with As Foretold, right?
Exactly.
So we were in As Foretold. Okay, good.
You got
Good,
you
good,
got
good.
it.
Yeah. All right.
What's the next card you'd want to cast with As Foretold, though?
You mean After Living End?
I don't know. Ancestral Vision?
Yeah. Yeah, you could, I guess. But, I mean, you can't do it in the same turn, and it's a sorcery, so you can't cast it on your opponent's turn. So,
Ah, man.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe it's Treasure Cruise.
Maybe it's Treasure Cruise. Oh, God. That's going to be a lot of turns, though, man. A lot of turns or a lot of
whatever.
proliferation. It's a proliferation sensation.
It
But-
is.
Anyway, all right. So we're gonna move on here, and we're gonna head over to our brew segment because considering we are in the wild, wild west, we wanted to bring another idea of a deck to your doorstep and see if you guys like it or not. Because that's what we do. Lores, brews, and news here at the Win Condition. So let's head on over to our main phase.
I would like to cast Thunderherd Migration for 2.
Ooh, what the heck does that do? That's Rivals of Ixalan, right? What does that do?
It searches for a basic land, puts it on the battlefield tapped, but it costs 3 if you don't have a dinosaur in
that's right.
play or reveal it from your hand.
That's right. I remember that now. Okay. Yeah. New rampant growth. That's awesome.
Yes, it seems pretty decent. I mean, could you imagine dropping a Rickjaw Raptor turn 3?
I can definitely imagine that. That sounds pretty saucy, if you ask me. So, also, Greg, I mentioned to you that we need to actually brew some standard decks here to play on stream, as
I
well as make some
know.
YouTube videos. So, I know I don't have it ready yet, but soon we should make some of these decks and actually play so that we can see what works and what doesn't and help educate our listeners on the goings on of our dirtily concepts here. So, anyway, what I have brewed up today, and I've been very curious about this for a while, not quite as long as the Mardu deck, but I love the God cycle from Hour of Devastation. Obviously, the Scarab God has taken the world by storm, but in a close second, I absolutely love the Locust God. And we saw the Locust God come out. I believe it was in the World Championships. There was a Jeskai Approach of the Second Sun deck that had it in its
Yes, there were.
sideboard.
Yeah.
And it was pretty sweet to see it actually hit the table.
Yeah, it did a lot of things, too.
Yeah,
It was
and
not completely useless.
I think every time it actually came out, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, so I won't try. Every time he came out, he won the game. And it's a very, very strong card. So if you don't know, the Locust God is it costs a red and a blue for a. Sorry,
Wait, it's
red
a
and a blue.
2-drop?
No. Red and a blue and 4 generic.
Okay.
Yeah, right. It's a 4/4 flyer, indestructible. No, not indestructible. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking here.
Indisturbable.
Indisturbable, right? Okay, so it's a 4/4 flyer, and every time you draw a card, you put out a 1/1 blue and red locust creature token with flying and haste.
Yeah.
And every
Then
time
it has a draw effect on it, too.
it does.
Yeah. It's not very great. It's like pay 4, draw a card, discard a card.
Yeah.
And then it has the other clause: if it was put into your graveyard at the end of turn, put it back into your hand. Because our Devastation Gods do that.
Exactly. So it's a very, very, very strong card, and I really wanted to brew an Izzet control deck. I know Grixis control has kind of been a thing, but there are a couple other cards that I really, really like, and kind of want to build a deck that will take advantage of the Locust God, as well as Red's ability to burn people's faces, Blue's ability to counter spells and draw cards. Keep it kind of simple, but at the same time, try to make a shell to start with that can be somewhat competitive. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and just start with the creatures. Definitely want to run a Baral. I'm starting with 3. He's 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary as a human advisor.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, he says your instants and sorceries cost 1 less, and every time you would counter a spell, you loot. You draw a card and you discard a card. So right off the bat, he's going to make all your spells cheaper.
Wait, I thought it was anytime. You said counter a spell, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So he seems pretty good. I'm going to run 2 of the Locust Gods, because with all the card draw, you're probably going to run into one of these guys sooner or later, and you only really need 1. We're going to run...
Because legendary, right?
And legendary as well, absolutely. We're going to run 4 Champion of Wits, because mid-range, card draw, eternalization later, drawing more cards, fueling that Locust God, as well as just filtering through your deck, just ripping through it. And then we're going to run, where is he? 3 Torrential Gear Hulk, because in a control deck with instants, you kind of want Torrential Gear Hulk. He seems pretty good. And so that's actually going to do it for our creatures. Then we're going to go into our card draw section. We're going to be running 4 Hieroglyphic Illumination, because who needs energy, And if you want to cycle it for 1, and get that card draw to make that locust token in a pinch, you can do it. Or if it's turn 1 or 2 and you need to cycle it, you can do that as well. We're going to go all in with Pull from Tomorrow, 2 of those. So, later on in the game, you want to draw a bunch of cards, you can. Only 2, so you don't want it in your opening hand necessarily. We're going to run 4 Opt, because Opt just seems pretty good. And then we're going to continue on with some cyclers that are going to allow us to some incidental card draw if we don't need to play the spell. We're going to start with 2 Sweltering Suns. I mean, you all know that I am a big proponent of Sweltering Suns, and if you don't need it, you can cycle it.
True.
So with all this card draw, discard, and cycling, I figure, why not run 3 Drakehaven? Make yourself some 2/2 flyers for defense. Keep yourself relevant in terms of offense and defense. And it seems pretty strong with all these cards going into your graveyard.
I mean, it doesn't seem bad, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, we haven't seen too much. I mean, there's a cycling deck, blue-white cycling deck that we saw in the standard. What's that format called? Unified standard. There you go. So that could be a good thing. And we're going to run 2 Disallows because you're blue. You're countering spells. You've got a Torrential Gear Hulk. You can counter abilities. It seems pretty good. And with all the card draw, you might not want to counter everything, but you can counter that, crucial spell that you need. And then we're going to run a couple damage spells because we actually do have to control the board. We can't just draw cards and hope to live. We're going to run 4 Lightning Strikes because it gives you the ability to go for the face as well as creatures. And with Baral, that's essentially a lightning bolt. It seems pretty good. And then we're going to run one of my pet cards, Flame Lash, which is available from only the Chandra Planeswalker deck, which is 3 in a red instant, deal 4 damage to target creature or player. And I tell you what, I have cast a couple of these followed up with a Torrential Gear Hulk, and if you go straight to the face, that's 8 damage to the face, plus you get your 5/6 creature on the board.
True.
Like that's pretty strong. So you got your Lightning Strikes, your Flame Lash, and then also to round it out, 2 Hour of Devastation. I think that this card is grossly underplayed, especially in a format where you're going to be seeing a lot of vampires, you're going to be seeing a lot of merfolk, you're probably going to be seeing a lot of energy persist. So it's a great way to deal with Hazoret. Yeah. It's a great way to deal with boards that go wide and get a little bit bigger. Obviously, if they get to be 6/6s or 7/7s with Kumena or what have you, you're going to lose the game anyway. But it's a great way to kind of board wipe while not being in white. So that's pretty much it. That's the main deck, and you can construct your mana base as needed. But just an idea, throwing it out there. Izzet control, and I'm gonna try to build it one of these days and see how it does. So
I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Would you possibly run Soulscarred Mage?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that because that was a great card that I was debating on.
I had another card in thought, just to give you that extra distance. You're already, you seem like you have a lot of spells that you might be casting in one turn. Why wouldn't you run maybe like Vance's Blasting Station?
You could do that too. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, this shell is out there to get people thinking about cards that could potentially be run with this to make it even more effective. And I love that you said Soulscar Mage. I'm going to revisit this for 1 second because the fact of his interaction with Sweltering Suns is so good because if you can cast, like you said, multiple spells in a turn, Soulscar Mage is a 1/2 prowess for 1 red mana. So if you cast Sweltering Suns, it immediately makes your Soulscar Mage a 2/3, and if you're able to top that with a Lightning Strike, then he becomes a 3/4 and he dodges the Sweltering Suns. So, and then you can swing in if you clear the board with a power 3 creature. Soulscar Mage is definitely an amazing card. Loved him since the beginning, and yeah, thank you, Greg, for mentioning that. So you can kind of take this any way you want. You can take it more in a counter, respect, with throwing in more negates or essence scatters, or you could take it in more of a burn fashion because you've got magma sprays, you've got other, damaging spells. But I love the Locust God. Built an EDH deck around him, but I think he's definitely good enough for standard play. So yeah, that's my little Izzet control build. Let us know what you think. Any suggestions, comments, concerns that I should stop brewing these decks? Please let us know. So that kind of brings us up to the end of our episode.
Does that bring you to your end phase?
That brings us to, yes, the end phase.
All right,
the end
so
step, rather.
Since we're in the end phase, let's clean up our act and tell everybody where they can find us.
Absolutely. Well, where you can find me is you can find me at flipsidegaming.com, ordering lots of Magic products, whether it's singles or sealed product, and I'm definitely using that promo code win condition in all caps to save 10% off the purchase and contribute to future show giveaways, of which we are going to have one on our 50th episode. Thank you everybody who's participated in them so far. Can't wait to see how we craft this one, but it's going to be interesting. But
Some
otherwise,
theory crafting, of course, right?
Exactly. Yeah, right. Otherwise, you can find me personally on Twitter at MTG_Sean.
And you can find me on NoobSlasher2003 on Twitter.
And the show is at The Win Condition. You can reach out to us an email at thewinconditionpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at thewinconditionmtg. We will put a link in our show notes to our YouTube page. You can kind of search for The Win Condition out there if you want. I know there's another channel called The Win Condition. I think they're a foreign language or something like that. Russian, there you go. But our logo, TWC, is the headliner thumbnail for our page. Come check us out. Let us know what you think. And yeah, thanks for listening. All that being said, Greg, thanks again.
Not a problem. Always a pleasure.
And we will talk to y'all next week.
All right.